MorningLine, our guest this morning, final segment, Davidson County Sheriff Daron Hall. Always good to see him, and he's here with us in studio, social distancing. We've got a few more calls for you. I think we have Carolyn next. Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Hello. What's on your mind?
Okay, I have a question I would like to ask, please.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, now, when they say all hands matter, my question is, I have a friend whose hands was up when they were arguing, him and his wife, and during that time, the son called the police when they arrived, and he got out of his red car with his hands up, asked them, do they have something to ask him? Rather than that, his neighbor have gravels on the side. So the other policemen, they pulled up, and the young lady came out with a gun drawn out. Then he pulled the stent out of his hand, and he was walking to help the policeman up. Meanwhile, the young lady had a gun out, and she shot him in the leg. Now, she didn't have a body cam on that was turned on, and the policeman that shot him, that pulled up in the car, did not have their body count out. But still, she shot him in his legs. The kids saw it. Then now they are running around crying that the policeman shot him in his leg. Okay, he was taken to the Bundyville, and when I pulled up, they told me I couldn't park beside the ambulance. I couldn't park over in the street. I had to park down the street, which the school is right next to it.
Okay,
so
well, what's your question? What's your question about this then?
My question is, when do the police have the right to pull the gun out to shoot him, even though he was trying to help the policeman up the fair?
Okay, I see. And that's where, we saw this week they're firing up those body cams, and, the video can sometimes answer it. That's a big question. That's going to be a question in the Delkey Hambrick case, the weapon. I don't know the situation she's exactly describing there, though if it's something that happened locally, we would have covered it. Knowing when to pull the weapon, right?
Yeah, Nick, and I don't know. I mean, I was going to ask her too, but it doesn't sound like that's from here. I know she said Vanderbilt, but I mean, the Metro Police, of course, those aren't my staff. They don't have body cameras, and she was saying they didn't have them on, and I assume that meant turned on. I'm not really
I think she meant maybe non, but they do have body cameras now, right? But the Metro has them, and they've ordered them, and in this past week, they're just now activating them. But they weren't activated when this incident happened.
Right. And they don't have them all on. I mean, there was a portion they're going to do a pilot program, I guess, and now they're instituting in the vehicles too. But anyway, I think there's that's the question. And moving forward, body cameras are going to give the community, which I think is worthy, a better understanding, better view of incidents, hopefully, and then we can make decisions about. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, almost everything we've been seeing in the last 12, 18 months have been on cameras. I mean, the Atlanta situation was definitely on camera. The Minnesota thing was on camera. So I hate to take away from it. I think there's going to be enough cameras on everybody, including the police officers, moving forward, that we'll all have a better chance to understand what happened. I mean, look at Minnesota. That wasn't police body cameras that we're all watching, and so I think it'll be good for everybody to understand what the events are. My opinion is we should show both sides of it, and then make a determination about what the appropriate actions are. Carol mentioned one other thing, and police are not trained to shoot you in the legs. I don't know who shot who, but it's not something that should have happened if that was a police officer shooting. I'm not sure how that worked out, but anyway, like you said, there's a lot in each one of these cases, and my hope is that we can find a way to, in our community to work together.
When these cases come up, and Vicki is joining us now, and that's Daniel Hambrick's mom. Yeah. Good morning, Vicki.
Good morning. I want to say this. I want to know, do Joe have any kids, number one, and was he there when my son got killed? And Sheriff, I told you about not too long ago that I want you to be the chief. Way before this happened with the chief. So,
okay. Yeah, it's funny. I knew we'd get a call or two like that, and I appreciate Vicki calling, because I was asking him the same question when he sat down this morning. Just yesterday, someone even called into the show and say, well, we're going to replace the chief. How about just putting it all under the sheriff?
Well, and Vicki, I appreciate you saying that, but I will say, and I've said this on the show over the last couple of years, that with community oversight, which I think is an important situation for people to to think about, having oversight over the police or whatever. One thing, and again, I don't want the job, and I would not stay in the job if it were to happen, just because I've been here long enough. But I do think one of the things that makes the sheriff's job different is that the voters put you here. And so I have had bump-ins with mayors over the years on issues because I believe certain things and others may not. And the voters get to decide that. I'm not saying I'm right, but if I'm not right, the voters are the ones who get to decide. If you want body cameras, the person in this job, if that were the way it would work, would decide body cameras or not. And if the public did or didn't want them, I've never loved it that it works through the mayors. I'm not picking and choosing mayors, but I don't really love the fact that that's how you're able to get your law enforcement accountability done, so therefore you have a community oversight. Well, so you keep building these apparatuses, and you heard Vicki, and then there's people who want to get rid of police chiefs and hire police chiefs and all. And in a weird way, that's what this job is. It's elected by the public. It's thrown out every 4 years if you want to. By the state constitution, it is the chief law enforcement officer of every county. That's the way it's designed. I don't want the job. I won't be here to do that. Yeah. I'm not advertising it. I just think that it's fair that what we're all talking about is accountability to the public.
Maybe you can fill me in on this. Are most sheriffs across the country, and of course you're president of the Sheriff's Association, are they elected in general, right?
Yes.
Sheriffs are elected. And are there any police chiefs that are elected, or are they almost always beholden to be at the city council or the city manager or the mayor, whichever it is the way the city's set up? But are most police chiefs then hired? They're not elected. And I'm guessing, just hearing you talk, if you had your druthers, you would rather be elected than have to answer to someone who hires you.
Yeah, so let's say I retired and moved away to another city or community or whatever. I'd rather have say-so in who enforces the law in my community. I'm living wherever.
You want to elect that person.
Right. Today, the way that works is, and by the way, let's get this out of the way. The person who's the most powerful person in our community is the district attorney. He takes your freedom. He decides to prosecute you. We elect that person.
Yep.
So it's not like you're giving authority to someone. No, it's actually less than the DA that you would be electing someone who could then enforce the laws. And if you didn't appreciate or really believe it was appropriately handled, you don't need an oversight board to do that. What you need is the election and holding the individual accountable, and I can promise you people do that with me now. If they have strong feelings about immigration or addiction or mental health, I mean, that's kind of what helps you keep a pulse of what's going on. I know many of the police chiefs. I think there have been 5 I've worked with in my time as sheriff, and to a person, I think each one of them at some point or the other have been influenced by the mayor as to how to enforce the law, good or bad. And I'm not sure that that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I could see a scenario, though, where that would be ideal. If you happen to live in a community where you have a very good mayor or a very good police chief who's going to be tenured there for a long time for whatever reason, you're on the same page with him, not having to worry about re-election every 4 years. I think, look, I know you love your job. I think probably if I asked you what part of the job you dislike the most, but it's a necessary thing for anyone running for sheriff, it's having to go through the election process, right? I mean, that's a necessary thing that has to be done. If you had a great city manager on the same page and you guys were doing great and you're there long term, that could be ideal.
It could, but the opposite's more likely.
Yeah, I know. You get one you don't
get along with. The mayors don't know anything about law enforcement.
Right.
Most of them have zero involvement and knowledge, and so they get pressured to do things, and they don't really understand the ramifications. And then the police chief can't afford to speak out because they will not only lose the election, they get fired.
Yeah.
And it happens a lot more. And so, and my point is not that sheriffs are better, but listen to what's going on in our community, that they want say-so and accountability and demand it. And well, they're demanding it through a resource called a mayor who has a huge job on their hands, whoever the mayor is. And they would never admit this, but deep down, I'm not sure it wouldn't be better for mayors. I mean, think if you're the mayor of Nashville today, there's plenty of challenges. Now you've got to go on what is going to be a year-long process to select a position that is very complex, that ultimately, people say, but the truth is, and that person comes here working for you, the mayor, wherever they live, but the community wants oversight. Now listen to what that means. Who is your boss?
Yeah.
And in a way, you're building a system that really is electing the person because you have oversight, which are community-based. The mayor's over here. I mean, it's fascinating. And I said I was against the COB, not because it wasn't the right idea, but I believed then Why not modify the charter to allow the roles to collapse? In some cities, the police chief works for the elected sheriff. And that chief then is just really an apparatus of a sheriff's office, and then you elect the person who's over that. And again, in the city.
And the difference there would be that you have a sheriff that knows law enforcement, because of course the mayor's elected. And by the way, just clearly, most police chiefs in the country are hired, correct?
That's right.
Okay. No, I see what you're saying. The whole aspect of mayors have to be, have a background on a lot of things and not specializing in law enforcement, obviously.
Right. And think about the district attorney. You and I spoke off air before we started. Look how powerful that position is, and look what it's based in. I mean, it is the most significant position you elect.
That's something I really did learn from you. It's interesting. I've brought that up on more than one occasion with individuals in other communities, and I kid around sometimes with other DAs, which is flattering to them. But I'll go, you know who the most important person is in this city or in this county? And you ask an everyday individual that, just on the street, and most people are probably going to either say the sheriff, the chief, or the mayor, and it's not any one of those three. And maybe you could argue that point, but I agree with you 100%. There's only one man, and what do you value the most? Your freedom, who has the power to lock you up, and that is the district attorney. He is the most powerful. He's more powerful than the judge because he brings the charges. He's more powerful than the mayor or police chief or sheriff. I learned that from you.
Well, and Nick, this is not a proud moment, but the truth is Nashville watched that happen. We had a district attorney charge and convict a mayor in our town.
You're right, that's right.
And so the point is, I'm not here to judge any of those people. The reality of that is, that shows you, at the end of the day, the district attorney that you are electing is the most powerful person. That's in any community. And so for people who say, I wouldn't want to elect a person who's over law enforcement, well, to be honest with you, you're doing that anyway in the most powerful position. And in every other community, the law enforcement officer that you're electing in sheriffs in these other counties, is the chief law enforcement officer. And again, I don't want the job. I won't be here. I'm not promoting that. I'm just saying that the COB and wanting accountability, and I hear a lot of frustrations about the mayors all the time from people who are advocating issues about law enforcement, trying to get to the mayor to get it done, and it just feels like a very difficult thing to ever accomplish. So
and when you're elected, you have a certain autonomy. And by the way, with the mayor, of course, here, and you're absolutely right. That's a good example. She wasn't really convicted. She ended up having to resign.
She was convicted, though.
Well, I guess. I mean, they went through I guess, but there was not a trial.
She pled guilty.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, it's crazy, and that does show, I think, the level of power that the DA has.
Right.
You're not kidding. You're a pretty powerful guy, too.
What? No.
Thanks for joining us, my friend.
Thank you, Nick.
We'll see you in a week, in a month. Be right back with the programming note after this.